Right. Welcome to the Village of Lake Bluff's Joint Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting for July 16th, 2025. Ms. Gable, if we could have call to order and roll call, please.
We'll call to order and start with a roll call vote. Member Danley?
Here.
Member Fisher? Here. Member Miller?
Here.
Member Russell?
Here.
Member Toll?
Here.
And Chair Peters?
Here.
Great, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is our non-agenda items and visitors' public comment time. We allocate 15 minutes during this portion of the meeting to address any issue that is not on the agenda. I don't anticipate that anybody that's here wants to present to us. Is there anybody on the web?
We have one person on the web. If you're interested in speaking, please raise your hand over Zoom. No, their hand is not raised.
Agenda item number 3, consideration of the June 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. Everybody's had a chance to review any proposed revisions or other changes.
We did receive one minor misspelling, but that's all I've received so far.
Do we have a motion to approve, please?
Don't move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Agenda item number 4, Ms. Gable, if you want to present that, please.
Yep. At the May 21st, 2025 PCZBA meeting, Graham Hallen sought an informal review of a potential project to remove his existing detached garage and construct a larger detached garage on his property at 206 East Prospect Avenue. After much discussion, members of the PCZBA concluded that they may consider a text amendment allowing 2.5 foot setbacks for detached garages on smaller properties, and 2, a detached garage that is not larger than approximately 24 feet by 26 feet or 624 square feet. Since then, Mr. Holland has engaged an architect to determine correct FAR numbers for his property and to reduce the overall size of the proposed garage, now proposed at 672 square feet. On June 20th, 2025, Mr. Hallen applied for the zoning text amendment and the minor variation to allow a FAR of 2,889 square feet, approximately 16.5% above the code allowance of 2,480 square feet. The applicant is here tonight to present their request, and the PCZBA is a recommending body on the zoning text amendment and the decision-making body on the minor variation request.
All right, Mr. Holland, if you want to approach and then we'll swear you in and we'll get started. If you could raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record
Graham Hallen,
and your address, and then you can begin.
206 East Prospect Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for looking at this request. My family and I moved into this house just over 5 years ago. So the current garage is an 18 by 18 detached garage that has a east-facing door. So our driveway points north, and the garage faces that door faces east. So it's a difficult turn, but even if it were an easy turn, the door is only about 5.5 feet tall. So our cars don't fit in that garage. What we'd like to do is make better use of that back area overall for all purposes. We'd like to take down the garage. We'd like to remove the pad, reducing the impervious surface, use most of the current asphalt driveway as the new pad. Construct a 24 by 24 garage, which we've worked on after the informal requests from the last meeting. So appreciate the feedback and looking into what would work well for us, but also, what would work well for the community. And in addition to that, we would like to have the garage would be in the northeast corner of the property, and an 8 by 12 extension on the northwest, I guess it would be on the west side of that 24 by 24. So that if, I think there's some elevations, which would show sort of the roof pitching east and west. So that 8 by 12 would sort of just continue that pitch down. Most of which would be hidden by a fence. So we have talked to every neighbor that we share property line with, which is more than I would have thought. I think we share property line with, I think, 6 neighbors. So it's a small little area, but we've talked to every neighbor. They're all very supportive of this endeavor. So I think our goal was really to, one, construct something that really worked for our family, which is a large family of 7, and the cars that we need to tote those kids around. One of the things that I pointed out in our application was that Lake Bluff has invested heavily in its outdoor commitment and the safety net of this neighborhood, in this community. And so much so that we have kids running on our flag. And we have a lot of things that we have for our kids to get out, to get outside, to be at the beach, to be at the park, to ride the bikes, to do all those things. And in a strictly 24 by 24 space, it would be really, really difficult for us to maintain that equipment, have places for that equipment, to keep our kids outside, to keep them living in this, community that I grew up in, and love this sort of commitment to being outside. So that's really our primary reason for that. And we'd like this to be attached because I think it would bring, as we drive around, and the houses are charming and unique and every house is different. And I think having a, plastic shed of some kind that's not fixed to the ground, that's just over dirt, I just think just doesn't seem to fit with the community and fit with the charm of the community that we are in. I think that's the overarching bulk of the request. I think included a bit more in the application. So any thoughts?
Maybe what we'll do is we'll adopt and incorporate by reference your submissions with respect to the variances or the variance request and also the text amendment request.
Okay.
We might question you on some of those sub-paragraphs, but we'll
Okay.
see where the discussion goes.
Sure.
Clara, I wonder, could you show a visual from Google Earth?
So he provided one in his PowerPoint of the existing. That might be more helpful than from the street view.
The tricky part with Google Earth is it's just trees. So it's hard to see because the canopy of the trees covers most of Lake Bluff.
Okay.
So we'd be aiming to move that into the closer corner to this shorter fence on the right. We want to take that down, which would actually allow, at this point on the left side of the garage before the fence, there's about 4.5, 5 feet of just dirt. It's not very usable at the moment. This would actually allow us, I believe it's 13 feet on that other side. That could be that. So it would open up that impervious space to be, yard or lawn or gardening. And so it would sort of open up that space a bit more while also having a larger garage.
Did you say you're gonna take down the tree? Is that what you said?
No tree. No, I'm not taking down any trees. No impact on trees, plants, other than the hostas in the back there that will move
Okay,
to a different part of the property.
good. No, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, who'd like to begin? Well, yeah, maybe go back one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to flip through to see if there's a garage elevation. Is this more helpful, or would you prefer to see the street view?
You just want to see that street view again?
Yep.
please? That's good. Yeah, great. Thank you. All right. Aaron?
Graham, I just had one question. And I think it mentioned that you're going to use the existing asphalt driveway as the base for the garage.
Yeah, so the large chunk of that asphalt drive would be cut, removed, and poured a new pad.
Okay.
So
So
a
you would
big
be,
chunk of that garage is just using the existing, I did phrase that poorly, would be using where the existing asphalt is.
okay.
That would be removed
And
with
a
a new
concrete
pad. poured. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
That's, thanks for the clarification. Is any of the interior space going to be heated or air conditioned?
I will, I haven't gotten that far yet. It wouldn't be air conditioned. It would be, if we do get further, I like the idea of being able to add a small heated, it wouldn't be like a split system. It would be potentially a gas heater. to Keep things, yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you. George?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I have several comments, or do you just want to go through questions first?
Yeah, go through, take whatever path you want.
Okay, yeah, originally, when when this was presented to us last month, I was concerned about the overage, the 16% FAR and a pretty sizable garage addition in the back. But as I dug into the numbers, and also in consideration of your changes, you reduced the height of the garage from 20 to 17 feet, which makes it in compliance. The building coverage for the whole project now is actually going to be 250 square feet under, which is a pretty unique combination when the whole FAR is almost 17% over. The one factor that I really like is actually you're going to have 150 square feet less impervious, which is also unique when you're adding that much more structure in the backyard. And another way of looking at the numbers is, you're allowed 440 square foot bonus in the back for detached structures. You're proposing 672 feet, so you're 232 feet over. You can't control your house. Your house is 8% over, but it's an existing older home. You're not going to tear your house apart. Of that 232 feet is almost 100 square feet of an attached shed. There are many, many people in this village that build sheds in their backyards and never get permits.
Mhm.
It's a fact of life. So I'm assuming if we allow you to build this attached shed as part of your project, you're not going to then turn around and build another shed in the backyard.
That's correct.
So you're down to literally about 130 square feet. And that's getting pretty de minimis. So unless I hear comments from my fellow board members, I'm inclined to vote in favor of this.
Thank you, George. All right, Elliot.
I'm not concerned about the amendment to 2.5 feet. I think that's reasonable for this property. With George's comments, I am concerned about the 16% over FAR. And if we're setting, again, a precedent that's going to allow other properties to come to us and say, well, you did it there before. I understand your dilemma, but this is the house you chose and the family you chose. I'm not sure the village is responsible for giving you the extra building space that you require. So right now I'm sitting on the fence whether this is appropriate or not.
Yeah, just to clarify, and I know, well, two-step process, obviously. One step is the text amendment issue and the other step is the variance issue.
Text amendment, I'm not concerned about. It's the variance that I have a little bit trouble.
Can I address that?
Sure, certainly.
So one of the things that is unique about Prospect Avenue is that there is 1,000 square feet at the front of our property that, unlike any other street in town, is not counted towards that percentage. So that is a unique qualifier to Prospect Avenue, which I believe, I don't know the exact percentage, but that would reduce the percentage of the overage.
It is a unique street in Lake Bluff. There are a couple other instances. In fact, our first house had a similar situation where though we had our lot that we used and maintained and it looks like it belongs to that house, in fact, was village property and it was an easement, and Prospect's the same way. And so I think that is certainly a unique situation that most other residents in Lake Bluff don't face. And so that's and that was going to be in my comments, but that's one of the big reasons I do not have an issue with giving you a variance to build additional than otherwise allowed, is because practically speaking, you're actually not. I think by the book, yes, but when it comes to your usable square footage of your lot, it's really not, in my mind.
Thank you.
Well, that's not the reason I would be in favor of it. There are about 8 streets in the east side of the village that have the wider right of ways.
Okay.
And it's several hundred homes. And to grant everybody 16% over, because of the I think the wide right of ways, I don't think anybody understands what a great benefit that is to the east side of the village. All this extra, it keeps all the houses set back. It allows for hundreds and hundreds of more trees to grow that would otherwise wouldn't exist if all the homes were 20 feet further forward. So I don't agree with that reason, but I go back to the number of you're only asking really for 130 square feet in practical terms. And it's fairly de minimis, and given your situation of a garage where you can't even get your car into, 18 feet isn't enough width for 2 cars. I'm still thinking I'm gonna vote in favor, but not because of the right. It's just-
Yeah, I didn't know there were that many streets. So
Yeah.
My mistake, my apologies.
No, thank you, George. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, Deb.
Disclosure, I live close enough that I got the letter about the property, so we're not totally neighbors right directly, but I'm right in the area. Regarding the text amendment, looking at that first, I think that's totally logical. I think that if we're looking at lots 6250 square feet or less, 2.5 feet seems totally logical. And, I'd see doing it a lot if that becomes, what people are asking for. And my understanding is the reason you got to those numbers would be that it wasn't the 7,500 square foot now minimum lots, right?
Yeah, the 6250 square feet in the text amendment was based on the FAR bonuses given to the
This one.
detached structures.
Okay. And then as to the variation request, to your point, Elliot, I do think that we are going to see more people coming potentially, but so that's why I'd be really cautious on a few of the things in the application. I don't want to be doing it on personal hardship and personal uniqueness, because I think some of that I have some issues with in a way. I just think that if we do this, we need to be able to then do it to the next person who comes along who only is a single person living in their house, but they're requesting, for similar things. I think we have to be kind of prepared because of precedent in a way, and logic, I think, in a way. And it made me really kind of think about those criteria that we use. And I don't see, the 2 criteria of public safety and code, nobody ever really questions those or comes with anything about those. But the other ones, I think, are where we need to be, I think, kind of consistent: uniqueness, hardship, and, not merely privilege, that kind of thing. However, I think we also need to recognize, because one thing in the application, you had mentioned the uniqueness of a 100-year-old house, plus or minus. We have a lot of them. The east side is kind of covered with them and stuff. And I think it's just something that we do need to start dealing with. So I think that we need to look at it lot and house, not so much personal situation of the homeowner. And even I agree with George in terms of living on Prospect, we have the same thing. Living on East Washington, before Prospect, there was a big stretch there because they were going to maybe put sidewalks in. So a lot of the streets do have it. We've already dealt with right-of-ways frequently, and recently it seems like in the West Terrace where there were road right-of-ways. And I would never want to see those incorporated into bulk because I think they do serve a marvelous openness and, you know, to George's point, they allow trees to grow and all that kind of stuff. So I think we just have to be logical about it so that we can be consistent going forward. But I think the reality is that a house that's almost 100 years old is going to have challenges with garages. You know, there's just no two ways about it. They're inventing different cars than existed. The height is a huge issue, I think, because as you know, they used to have big cars, but they weren't high. And now we have high cars that I think are going to be a problem. And let's just see what else so I think that we've got to get used to the idea that we want to preserve our older houses, and yet we're going to have to, I think, start doing a little bit of this. I think also you got dinged in a way because you have a third floor. A lot of the older, or you have some space that got counted into your bulk because of the third floor.
Yes.
A lot of our older houses have that. So I think that to George's point about the amount of excess bulk, that doesn't bother me as much because I get how it's coming. I guess that's kind of, you know, I'm inclined, unless I hear something different. I don't necessarily think, wouldn't want to see people putting 3-car garages back there or something like that. I think it needs to be realistic and reasonable for the lot size. But as long as the bulk is in range and the impervious surface is in range and it's not too tall and the neighbors are okay with it, you know, on these kind of issues that come up, even with a different personal situation that have less spikes and, you know, things like
Yeah.
that. I think that we'll see it, and it's logical that it's going to happen with the age of our inventory.
Yes or no?
So I would be in favor. Sorry.
Thank you, Deb. Jill?
Oh, that's hard though, because it is a hardship, you know. I think I lived on Prospect. I get it, the carriageway. I had a small home and I couldn't do anything with that space. And yet, if we don't look at every house as a unique individual house and have a broad span out there and generalizing, then, you know, we're going to not allow us to see how unique and characteristic our town is, that each one should be treated individually, even though we do, that's our job to have the zoning and policy in place. But at the same time, I think, you know, you have, you know, a garage that just doesn't function. And you are removing it and placing it in a better way. I also think getting cars off the driveway and off the streets and put away isn't such a bad thing to have the ability to do, and sort of the lean-to shed too, with all the other toys and things that could be put away. Hopefully teach them how to put things, you know, away too, would be really great. And there's, you know, you think about that, 100-year-old home, how do we put incentives in there and instead of tearing something down? But again, unique, yeah, you know, property, I don't think you would be able to do that with your square footage. I don't think that the text I don't have any issue with. I would be in favor of this for the reasons that others have stated, so.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah, I spent a fair amount of time kind of working my way through the proposed text amendment and also working my way through the proposed variance. And I guess came up with a number of issues or questions. And it's not really necessarily directed toward the petitioner, but it's directed toward long-term ramifications, so to speak. I wish there were a way, and I think in talking with Courtney that there isn't, for an individual like the petitioner to petition for some sort of variance that would allow for this sort of relief. But apparently that's not procedurally available. Because I am concerned about the proposed text amendment, and I'll just go through the concerns that I've internalized. Obviously, one is impact on FAR, one is increased density. quite often perhaps decrease green space, but in this case, you're increasing the green space, which is, you know, a positive, obviously. Impact on the potential, on the individual neighbors. What sort of ramification, if any, would there be with respect to the ADU ordinance? Would a text amendment like this be possibly, if approved, increased to 7,500 square feet lots? I don't know. And, you know, what other potential unintended consequences are there? The reference to 24 by 26, you know, usually we're doing, I think, with 20 by 20, 400 square feet, George, or
20 by 22 is.
20
the
by
code.
22 is the 440. And I'm not looking at you, Mr. Allen. Yeah, I'm just talking in general about the text
Exactly.
amendment. But 24 by 26 seems pretty aggressive. Especially, well, on any reasonably sized lot, but on certainly a smaller lot. And so I don't know whether or not that is the appropriate figure, so to speak. And I don't know from your perspective whether that variance, I'm talking variance in general terms, if, for example, a text amendment had a 440 square footage, does your request get addressed in a variance request? I'm not sure. And then the shed, but as Mr. Russell was raising, a lot of people apparently have sheds or whatever that aren't approved. So what you're doing is much more architecturally beneficial. So those are some of the general comments or concerns or whatever, because once this text amendment, if it's approved, if it's recommended by us, and then if it's approved by the village, that's going to be the standard for the smaller lots. And I think we just have to think through, are there significant unintended consequences? And I don't have the answer to that, but I'm trying to look forward 5-10 years. And then I had a couple of questions for you, Mr. Hill. Just any plans to move?
Nope.
Okay, because we've had a few scenarios in the past where we were rather aggressive in our ultimate decision, and then lo and behold, 6 months, 12 months later, the house is for sale. And you kind of wonder about the intent
Yeah.
at the time. And I'm not inferring that.
No,
No, but I'm just wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I've got 5 kids, 6 to 12, between 6 and 12, and they love their life here, and
Then you're close to the.
we love,
Eastern Trustees.
I grew up here. I have nowhere to go.
Okay, no. And we're not obviously locking you in. It's
I
just,
understand. Yeah. I know I can't make that guarantee.
Right.
But
how wedded are you to that 24 by 26? Is it
so I wasn't.
24 by 24?
24. You know, I've looked at a lot of things, and we've even sort of used AI and ChatGPT to sort of look at actually opening doors in a garage to be able to get out of a car without slamming the door into another car. And I do feel as though 24, that width, is really what we needed. And I think we outlined that in one of the questions that we answered. And then the depth, you know, at this point, my truck is 22 feet long. So the interior dimensions of a 24 by 24 are not actually 24. So this was something that sort of, as I was going through the process, I started searching what's the actual interior dimension of a 24 by 24, and it ends up being sort of almost 22 by 22. So it does, whilst it sounds larger than it, you know, in the interior, it does take away space.
Okay.
Which makes it difficult. So fairly married.
I guess, Courtney, if you could work through the scenario, if, for example, the recommendation was 20 by 22 for the garage size on a proposed text amendment, what alternatives would be available to the petitioner?
Well, that's up to the PCZBA if they'd like to. What is before the PCZBA is the renderings of 24 by 24. If the PCZBA wants to make a motion to grant a variation less than what's requested for 20 by 22, they may do so. I don't know how
Right.
it affects the petitioner's, petitioner's plans would have to change. I guess
But if the text amendment proposed,
the text amendment is for the text amendment is only for the size of the property, allowing a 2.5 foot setback.
Correct. There could be like a maximum structure size associated with that. It could be
Yes.
added to that.
If you want it.
But if it's less than what he's requesting,
Right.
that wouldn't grant him what he.
Right, that wouldn't grant his relief.
But a maximum structure size is something that could be potentially added to the text amendment.
Right.
That or in certain zoning districts, something along those lines.
Now, can I ask, what is the concern? I mean, if the text amendment is for 6250 or lower, it's not granting a variance for 7,500
No.
square foot lots or anything. The 6250s can't be created anymore. Am I right?
Not in the zoning district.
So we can't create new lots of that size. So this would only then apply, as I understand it, to older properties. And I can't imagine that everybody's going to be wanting to tear down existing garages. You know, so I don't know. I'm just trying to understand how much of
Oh.
this, you know,
And-
how much of this could happen in the unintended consequences, which
Right.
is a fair thing certainly to look at.
And we still have a limit based on FAR.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, even if we were to put in, you know, some building size that goes within 2.5 feet of a lot line, they're still limited by the FAR. So
And impervious.
and impervious. So, you know, just like in this case, they could still come to us if they would like to build something bigger. But I think a lot of those lots are probably going to be pretty restricted just on the available space to build on, right? So I don't have a problem with not putting in a maximum building size in that setback.
Plus, I think a lot of those houses will have, now, if a basement is half above grade or a certain number of feet above grade, then that gets counted into FAR, right? And then if it is a 3-story, which a lot of the older houses can be with 6 foot or more, accessible or not roofs or attics, that would all be counted. So they kind of self-limit themselves with some of that.
And we'd had the ability to see those, right? I mean, there's probably, you know, I can't say with any sort of certainty, but there's probably not many, if any, of those lots that could support, you know, a larger garage without coming to us for a variance.
Right.
So we're going to see it anyway.
Well, because I think there are more, I mean, I talked briefly to Clara before the meeting, trying to figure out the number of lots, so to speak. And apparently there might be perhaps a couple hundred, you know, we don't have a set figure.
Yeah, so what I had mentioned to Gary before the meeting is I had a feeling that something was going to come up about the number of lots and where those might be located. And so I tried to work with our GIS consultant to pull a map together and wasn't able to do that in time, but there are a handful of properties, mostly in the east side of town, but also in the sanctuary subdivision that would meet those requirements.
I guess that raises the question whether or not we limit it to the particular zoning region on the east side, because sanctuary, I think, is zoned differently.
It is.
Just
Yeah.
because it is a rather dramatic change, at least from my perspective. And I
The
just-
sanctuary, those homes already have built-in garages.
Right.
I
yeah.
don't know if that.
I don't know, they'd be allowed to.
Yeah, this.
Those homes are all connected. Those homes are, it's like 2 homes are connected. That would be pretty
I don't
difficult,
think
I
it's
would
that,
imagine.
apples and oranges as far as the sanctuary goes.
You are, no, I think you're right.
So,
But, you know, you could potentially, I don't know what their HOA would probably be resistant, but somebody, I guess, if this text amendment applied to the sanctuary, could put up a shed that was 2.5 feet from the lot line. So I think
that would be an HOA.
probably an HOA thing, yeah.
Mhm.
Sheds are allowed to get closer anyway on a small
Yeah.
lot already,
Okay.
just,
What was
Yeah.
that, George?
Or,
no, I was just saying
I'm
sheds,
just trying to,
sheds are already allowed to be,
I'm just trying to
2.5.
apply this to the sanctuary, and I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna put a detached garage in the
no,
sanctuary.
it
but-
wouldn't,
you know, something, some sort of accessory structure on the.
No
on the
access to the
property.
backyard.
It's,
And
Or
the
just-
HOA, I think, controls design and stuff there.
Gary, of all the aspects of this, the one that I find least troubling is the suggestion that we do allow the 2.5 foot setbacks on the very small lots. Having seen, you know, all the new construction that has occurred over the years on the 62, 50, the 50 by 125 foot lots, it's, you know, the backyard does become very tight between the garage and the back corner of the home. And that space between the garage and the property line really isn't used for anything. I mean, it becomes dead space, and I personally feel very comfortable with that change, that particular aspect.
is there a problem with height, though? When you're looking over a neighbor's yard, should there be a restriction on windows or an attic space when you got that close to the property line?
This would just be for an accessory structure, right? This-
Which
this
does
would-
have-
This
Yeah,
would not.
yeah, this is not for
Yeah,
the,
this would not be for a primary living.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Well-
I'm talking about if you want to put a granny flat on top. You couldn't do
This-
that.
Yeah, the height,
It'll be the height of the house.
the height limit would be 17 feet for an accessory.
Isn't it equal to the height of the house? Is the
Not for an
accessory?
accessory.
I thought it was, the height of the house was the limit.
It would be,
If I'm wrong, that's fine, but I thought it had to be compliant with the size of the house, the accessory dwelling. That goes back a couple of years, so I could be wrong.
We did talk about that for ADUs. There's something about no taller than the height of the house, but I forget where that was.
So if this
Yeah.
house is 27 feet, you don't know how tall your house is.
I think it's 31.
31 feet. I mean, theoretically, you can make it as an ADU and put an apartment up there or
But
a
then
study.
you're gonna be so far over on your FAR, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd still have to come here, is what I'm saying, but I just think, you know, we're talking about bulk. Okay, then it would come here, then we would say, well, you can't do that because of your height limitation. Or, but you're allowed your height limitation to the height of the house.
Yes, is there a major difference between a 17-foot tall or 27-foot tall structure that's 5 feet from the property line or 2.5
No, I'm
feet?
just
from-
talking
Yeah,
about adding just,
Sure.
to me, it's more intrusive when you're that close. You know, 5 feet, 2.5 feet, it really doesn't theoretically matter. But I do think from you looking from the other side, it may seem more intrusive
Mhm.
from your own lot. Just a perception.
I mean, I was looking at it that 2.5 feet still lets you get a ladder up there to clean a gutter and you're not having to go onto your neighbor's property to, you know, if you're any
Right.
closer, you're gonna.
I'm just
Right.
questioning whether we should have a height limit. Something that's 2.5 feet. I'm bringing it up just for discussion, that's all.
Yeah, and a lot of this, Mr. Hill, is general discussion, because I think people are generally comfortable with the dimensions and the height and everything, so.
I'm just here to listen, learn.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
So,
Elliot, we do have the detached structures can only be 17 feet high. I mean, that's the rule. I mean, that's what we're seeing right there in the picture.
Then we decide for
And
an
the daylight
ADU,
plane would,
for an ADU, it did not have to be that.
so with ADUs, something to keep in mind with how the code's currently written is they would have to meet the same setbacks as the principal structure. So they wouldn't have the 2.5 foot
Okay. I stay.
back if
That's fine.
that helps.
We go back to the your accessory building. It says 8 by 12 storage area. What's the square footage of that?
96.
96. I'm just thinking in terms, when I looked at your house, there's a lot of house on your lot because of the lot size. And is that storage area gonna be hidden by your house?
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't have as much a problem with it.
And my thought is, as somebody here already mentioned, you do have, you know, if we say no to this, he could make, I'm not saying this about you, but anybody that gets turned down on something like this can just go do one of those sheds someplace else on the property. right?
I understand that, but again, it's attached.
I think this looks better. I'd rather have it be above the radar than under the radar and.
That's illegal. So we're gonna go around.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have a lot of, if we look in the winter with a drone, we'd see a lot of little roofs of sheds throughout our community. You know, permanent or not, so. This, I think, is preferable in my opinion.
No, thank you. Any other questions or comments for the petitioner? All right. Yeah, any public comment, Clara?
If anyone online would like to speak, please raise your hand. No public comment.
All right. And again, I think, Mr. Halen, the fact that you're decreasing the impervious surface impact by 150 square feet is very significant considering the remaining size of your backyard. So I appreciate that.
Can I ask one question? There was something about reducing an eave because there was something that you have to take back an eave or cut back an eave or something.
I don't know. I'm wondering if Jeff Hansen had come out and said that he wanted to make sure the gutter was draining a specific direction. Is that maybe?
No, it was in
Okay.
your architect's package.
I think it was to reduce it because there's
Something is too close.
yes, so it had to be, I think he said 6 inches.
Okay,
I think there was a 6 inch, it's reducing the eave on the east side so that it's within 2 feet of the line. So it has to be a 6 inch eave,
you
so
switched
shorter
it
than,
to do that.
yes,
Okay.
shorter, narrower than normal eave. That's right. Good memory.
All right. Any further discussion?
But one last thing, based on Courtney's view, I think what Gary asked you, once we do this, people will not have to come back to us if it gets approved by the village board.
The text, so there's two portions
The
of
variance, they would have to come back for us.
Yeah, a variation would still be required. The text amendment is just allowing the accessory dwelling structures to be within that 2.5 foot setback if they meet that small requirement. If anyone is still requiring a variance for any sort of reason, it would still have to come before the board.
That clarifies that.
And the village could have come before us solely on the proposed text amendment if there was some inclination. It didn't have to be associated with Mr. Halen.
Okay.
That's correct. The village can initiate
Could have been.
text amendments.
Yeah, we haven't had that many over the years. All right, no further discussion. Is there a motion? It'll be a twofold motion. So I think we'll start with the proposed text amendment first.
So as far as the text amendment goes, I move to recommend the village board approved an ordinance amending section 10-5-9 of the municipal code in the form attached.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right.
Member Danley,
Aye.
Member Fisher,
Aye.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Member Toll,
Aye.
and Chair Peters.
Aye.
Right, motion passes.
All right, then the second prong is the proposed, the requested variance.
I move to approve the requested relief in the form of the attached approval order. Do we need to say anything about that, cutting back the X number of inches, or is that part of?
I think it's in his drawings already.
Yeah.
quite
His
honestly.
drawings.
It's the intent.
Looked
but-
really short on the east side.
Yeah.
It's the intent, but you can.
Okay.
And again, it's 24 by 24.
Correct, sir.
With the addition.
Yes, yes. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, can we have a vote, please?
Member Fisher,
Aye.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Russell,
Aye.
Member Toll,
Aye.
Member Danley,
Aye.
and Chair Peters.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes as well.
Thank you. Next steps, Ms. Gaben.
So as I mentioned, the variation is, this is the body that grants that. The text amendment will have to go to the village board. And we'll be in touch about next steps with that.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you
for coming.
Thanks.
All right. Agenda item number 5. Ms. Gable, if you could present that, please.
Yes. Architect Healy Rice, on behalf of property owner Shore Acres Drive LLC, is seeking informal review of potential variations at 1750 Shore Acres Drive. The property owner intends to demolish the existing house and build a new single-family house. 1750 Shore Acres Drive is zoned CE Country Estate Residence District. The subject property is undersized, and any new home constructed would be unable to meet the 100-foot front and 40-foot rear setback requirements. Since this is an informal review, the PCZBA can provide feedback on the different renderings provided and can opine on the proposed house location and size, potential re-subdivision, and any other site details necessary, such as the utilities, access, trees, or other items. And I can pull up Ms. Rice's renderings that she provided, starting with the plat of survey. Wait, and we can zoom in.
I don't know if I'd officially get sworn in or introduce myself or anything.
Oh,
Informational, okay.
You won't have to get sworn in
Okay.
because it's an informal discussion.
Great, okay. I'm Healy Rice. I'm the architect for the project. I live and work from Wilmette. And just at a sidebar on the garage, Winnetka is a 2-foot setback. Kenilworth has a 2-foot setback, so the 2.5 feet is definitely in line with other communities in the area. I think Glencoe also does 2 feet.
Really?
So
Okay.
just for your sidebar.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So we are proposing at this property to demolish the existing structure. You can see the existing, it's highlighted in yellow, is extremely close to the road. It's also in pretty terrible condition and also very close to the, I'll say, the right side property line, sort of the southwest side. What we're asking for is your guidance on what you think would be best in terms of where we can put this house. There's 2 things you can see, and it's sort of highlighted in green. The lot is L-shaped, and the 2 property owners, both 1750 and 1776, would love to basically give that corner back to 1750, so the lot is rectangular. And I've given you guys both examples of that, but I'm working with the square footage on the smaller size just to start with that. Part of this lot, we are, I think, 90 feet altogether on the south side and 112 or 120 on the north side. So as Clara indicated, the 100-foot country estate zoning, we won't be able to satisfy. The current structure was the original coach house for the main house at 1776. I think the 1776 house was built in the 1920s, and this was built in the 1940s. Before this was part of Lake Bluff. It was part just unincorporated Lake County, and this was developed or added into Lake Bluff, I think in 1973 or 74. The house as it is right now was the chauffeur's house originally. So it's 1 bedroom, 1 living room, 1 tiny little kitchen. And the property owner would like to just build a small cottage on the property that altogether, as we're proposing, would be about 2,800 square feet, of which 193 is a front porch. So that's something we can talk about too. When I look at the zoning, and I brought sort of a cheat sheet for you guys on both sides.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll work it out.
There's 4 options here. And part of, I guess the things that we would be looking for relief on are the setbacks primarily. We can satisfy the side yard setbacks without any problem. The lot coverage for a country estate is 20%, where all of the other residential districts in the village are 30%. 20% on a 5-acre lot is a lot of area. 20% on a 9,000 square foot lot is not. So we're looking for a little bit of relief potentially for that. If we went to the 30%, which is the second page, we would be satisfactory in terms of the proposed square footage for the house. The FAR, or the floor area, we're fine on in either case. They're 3783 and the house is 2861. I think primarily, we would grant or seek your guidance on where you would like to see the house. The 4 different site plans sort of skew towards the north side where we would meet that 13-foot setback and run parallel to that, or we can make it parallel to the front yard and bring it back from there. It's only 6 feet off the required setback right now, or 6.6. So we would love to move it back off the road. I think you've received a letter from the next door neighbor supporting an improvement for the area and moving it farther away from their home. It's only 4 feet from their corner or their side yard. So moving it farther north would be our preference as well. But that's kind of where we're starting and would love to get your input on what makes the most sense for this.
Just for clarity on your handout, the 4 options on this would be
The first 2 are with the existing
the
lot.
existing lot.
And the second
Okay.
2 is if we would square it up, it would add,
Got it. Okay.
I think it's 1,400 square feet to make it a
Yeah.
rectangle.
Thank you.
Well, I'll start.
Mhm.
I know what I would like to see you do for your client.
Mhm.
I'd like to see your client or you create for your client a 1/2-acre lot in the front by pushing keeping the configuration to the north, that same property line, but pushing that southwest property line
We would love to do that.
further
Yeah,
back.
we would be ecstatic about doing that. So,
You could have this
Yeah.
house with a 1/2-acre lot. You could have that house situated on the 1/2 acres so that it would still leave 1.9 acres.
right.
for
Oh,
your-
no, that's,
It
yes,
would give you could
Everything
put
we-
this house that you're
yeah.
proposing with a 100-foot setback. You would still have 100 foot in the front. You would still have the 40 feet in the rear, and you would meet the side yard setbacks for
I'm
this
not sure if I
district.
can,
So you,
I'm not sure if I can get the 100 feet on the front, but yes, we would absolutely we would like to explore that. So,
I mean, if
Yeah.
we're gonna go to a subdivision route anyway, because that little notch there, that lot is so small. But when we get up to the range, hardly any of the lots, first of all, in Olive Shore Acres comply with the
correct.
4.5 acres. All the lots in the immediate area, the smallest one here that we're looking at is 0.28. But then they jump up to 0.98, 1.32, 2.05, 2.09, 2.09. And then the bigger lot that we're dealing with right here is 2.15.
Right.
So your bigger lot would drop to about 1.9
Which would be
acres, which would
It would still enable us to do something on that
And-
later. Yeah.
and it would keep, because everything to the north from this property, the setbacks, front yard setbacks are huge,
Mhm.
except for one newer home caddy corner where it's a 75-foot setback.
Mhm.
And the other key element here, which we don't have any information on, but if anybody's been up there, the front of this property within the limits of the small lot is where all the trees are. And if you plop a new house in there, you're gonna
And, yeah,
eliminate almost every tree within that green box by the time the construction is done. So if I may, I just want to
No,
explain.
I'm,
And I don't know, had no idea whether your client would even approve of something like this, but if we're gonna go subdivision route, why not build something that's gonna work with the whole area? Oops.
Oh, so I don't know if this is more helpful to show the full lot. No? Okay.
Just explain to everybody what I was suggesting and the applicant.
Yep.
So keeping this lot line the same, but moving this, it would have to fall about back to where the residence used to be. Right here, that would give you your 1/2 acre property, the new home would comply, would sit in here, and would comply with the 100-foot setback, you would 190 feet back would give you the 40 feet you need for the rear yard setback.
Yeah,
And it
I'm
was
coming up
built
with,
on
I'm
top
coming
of
up with
28.
170, but yeah, we could,
That's,
no, I'm coming up with 170 based on the 128 frontage, but yes, I mean, we would
That's-
absolutely
that
be in
is-
favor of that.
to me,
Well-
that's the best long-term solution. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's what I thought.
I mean, that sounds great. If that's even a possibility, that would certainly make it very easy for us.
Okay, I mean, I think the owners would be overwhelmed and overjoyed to do that. That was what we were hoping, and we wanted to come in with a small request first. But that, the idea of making it, getting as many things conforming as possible would absolutely be our goal.
And
So,
particularly, don't lose sight of the tree. Once the tree survey comes in, I don't know if anybody drove up there, but all the trees are in the front surrounding that older home.
Mhm.
It would save
Oh.
a significant number of trees, and the
Mhm.
house would actually sit in what is the open area
which is
now
more nestled.
in
Yeah.
front of the old estate house. So
The old estate house still there?
No,
Is that a realistic proposal?
absolutely. Yes.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would certainly also be in favor of
Okay.
exactly that. And if you need to tweak the math to get you so that you are conforming.
Yeah,
go for
great.
it, Because.
Yeah, and I can adjust the house obviously as well. So
Exactly.
I mean,
As
that,
long as we're
both of those
flexible
are,
on the
yeah.
House, I
Mhm.
think that solves a lot of the problems. And, some of those trees look vulnerable, but the evergreens are
Right.
huge and everything. So the more you could keep that. And I think my sense is certainly that the neighbors would prefer that even than,
I agree. I mean, even with where I was proposing it, I'm still right on the road. And that's, that's not the vibe of the neighborhood for sure.
So the other element that I forgot to mention with this is, would you also be willing to flip the layout of the house so that
Possibly, yes. Yeah.
because then you can use the existing driveway and turn into the garage
Mhm.
rather than running a new driveway 100 feet down the
That's one side.
south
Yep.
property line,
Yes.
which would also impact trees. So
I mean, is that creating a flag lot or is that okay, since that's kind of what's
Well,
already there? So,
You would already need variations from our subdivision code to do what's being proposed, so that would be something that you'd have to come back to this board for anyways.
Okay.
So we can talk about.
okay, I mean, we'd be fine with that. So. Okay. Wow. Great.
No, I mean, I'll defer to my colleagues that are much more enlightened on the architectural and spatial issues. So if you can take care of the land acquisition, it
Mhm.
seems like it's a pretty straightforward proposition unless I'm missing something.
Great.
Any other guidance or questions?
No, I think that really checks a lot of the boxes and makes things a lot easier for me. So, thank
I'm
you.
assuming the neighbors would like that alternative the best because
Yeah, no, I mean.
the
yeah,
new home sits 100 feet off the road.
Yep.
It will become hidden by the trees
Right.
that remain.
And I think that's what everybody likes over there.
Still might
Yep.
be someone coming and questioning
a
two
subdivision.
homes eventually, but I mean, you can explain
Mhm.
that
What
the village attorney has already confirmed that you have 2 buildable lots.
Correct.
And you just, if that's the legal situation, then the neighbors can't stop the construction of 2 homes. And this alternative that I'm proposing just results in much more favorable for the trees, and gets both of the homes back off the street.
Great.
What's the second home? I'm sorry. Is the second home, you keeping that one there?
It's already, the one
That one's
below,
already
the
been
one
taken
below
down.
is gone and the owner on that property plans down the road to build closer to the golf course because that goes, I don't have both lots or both plats. It's like 500, 450 feet down. So there's plenty of
340
room.
feet left.
Yeah, there's
for the
plenty
other
of room to
lot.
work with for that. Yeah. So.
Are there HOA considerations or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would then allow you to potentially tweak the house that you designed and you're
Correct,
not
right.
wedded to that.
Not
design.
at all. No, I mean, it was just sort of the first concept of, kind of what they wanted. They don't intend to build a giant house on it. They really would like just a modest.
And if it
Yeah,
is more
yeah.
evened out lot wise,
Yep.
maybe you could do a third car garage or something like that,
Yeah,
if
that's-
that's a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make sure that the numbers work in terms of
Right.
floor area as well as lot coverage
Just
then
play with the
with
bulk, so.
more of that. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for the consult, George.
I'm shocked.
That was the best.
My solution. Yeah, I thought they wanted a really tiny lot and all that work was gonna be for nothing.
Glad you asked, because I was a little uncomfortable at that size, so.
All right. Agenda item number 6, staff report.
So the main item would be that we are holding an open house on July 30th from 5 to 8 at the Public Safety Building for the Green Bay Road project. And so you'll see signs up around town for that and some communications in our e-news. There will be boards there explaining the project and the timeline. And so again, look for more communication, but that's when that is taking place.
And that's the bridge work on.
Yeah, the road and the bridge.
Seems like that's the second time since I've been living here. How long have you seen that bridge redone, George?
Elliot, it was built, rebuilt in 1986 and I
I
moved
remember
here in
that.
87. So,
That-
but my old firm did the work.
Yeah, I
So
remember
that's
that.
the only reason I know the dates. But if you remember the first time it went up, I'm really impressed.
I wasn't there then.
Yeah, that is what I have.
Great.
Can I just ask a question? So the comprehensive plan was talked about at the farmer's market? Was that?
Yes,
that-
Pesca came and had a table at the last farmer's market and just presented on the plan to patrons, and they said that they had good turnout.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any negatives?
not that they told us.
Good. Good.
All right. Agenda item number 7, commissioners report.
Anything on the agenda for next month?
We have at least one public hearing.
I have 2 questions on past projects that were approved. I haven't been out to the business park in a while. Did the storage people
Car
pull a
storage.
building permit yet? The car storage?
That is a good question. I know they started the process, but I don't know where exactly in it they are now, but they did submit initially for permitting.
And then the young couple that wanted to build the new home in Crabtree Farms that got the variation for their barn to look like or the house to look like a barn or whatever it was. Is that any building permit activity on that? Or is that, because that's been a while.
Yes.
I think their variations probably expired.
That one's been a while. Was that the same one that came back for the shed
Yeah.
closer to
Mhm.
the, like on the bluff?
Yes.
Yeah, so, that one, I don't believe there has been activity on.
And what about Lawrence's English pub?
I believe we looked into that one recently and that they, were provided another extension, but nothing beyond that at this point.
Collecting pennies for the construction or?
Yeah, can I ask, which committee is working on like the electric bikes or putting something in play for rules?
Limiting them.
So that was actually discussed at our last committee of the whole meeting.
Okay.
So at the last village board meeting 2 days ago on Monday. And the village board is looking at regulations on that issue to start with limiting wheels in the CBD. And I know
Yeah.
Courtney is working on that.
The
Okay.
police chief and I are working hand in hand to go through. Yeah, we originally put forth an ordinance that just limited certain types of motor vehicles, like the e-bikes, the scooters, low-speed electric scooters in the CBD district, like on sidewalks and whatnot. That's still being workshopped. We're also fighting the state passed new legislation regarding low-speed electric scooters and certain regulations for that. So defining, high-speed electric scooters, what the village would want, low speed, the different classes of e-bikes. We're working to, I know we have I believe an agreement with Lake County for the bike trails to see what is allowed on that. So there's a lot of moving parts, but we're putting together an ordinance to address the various electric and other types of motor vehicles that we're seeing an increase in.
I heard like Hinsdale banned it, but I didn't know if that was just in their downtown area or also the park.
Yeah, there's a few communities along the North Shore and in the western suburbs that have recently passed ordinances regulating low-speed electric scooters based off of the new state legislation that was passed. But again, there's specific loopholes in that legislation just based off of how the General Assembly categorized these scooters. So again, we're seeing different regulations in different communities, but we're workshopping kind of what the village wants to see. But so far, at least we are focusing, or this last draft was more focused on the CBD district generally.
That's good.
Have we had many incidents in Lake Bluff involving pedestrian and scooter accidents or scooter bike?
Related to the e-scooters or e-bikes, it's low.
Oh, it is low.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is, but they are newer, within the last year, few years at most.
And I think the complaints are starting to come out more from people just, walking out of a building and somebody,
Scooter
comes
by.
outside,
Yeah,
zipping by.
The near miss.
So far, we've been lucky.
Right.
It's the small group of kids with the e-motorcycles that are
Yeah.
the real terror.
Yes, and we're
They're-
also addressing the e-motorcycles.
We had, Drew was actually in my driveway last week and 3 of them came across the Gurney Avenue footbridge
Oh,
faster than any car I've seen in 37 years go up Gurney Avenue, shot right out into the street and it's a blind, there's no visibility there. It's meant for pedestrians or bicyclists going slow. And all 3 of those kids.
It's amazing how
right out
parents-
into the street. So it's only a matter of time before
Yeah.
there's an accident.
Amazing that a parent would buy that for
Yep.
a child. I just don't just don't see that.
Our police are enforcing. I did see yesterday at Blair Park, there were 2 kids that had been pulled over, and I'm not sure if they were cited, but at least they were pulled over and were being talked to, so.
Yeah, there's not much monitoring, as you can appreciate, on the bike path, but there's some rather significant speed
Oh, yeah.
at times.
Yeah.
And especially if it's electric, you don't really hear it
Right.
till they're passed.
Any news on a new person on our board?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have anyone lined up.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Very productive meeting as always, and thank you very much. So, agenda item number 8, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, thank you very much.